And we're live. Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Mount Silver Circuit Invitational top four. So our first match is going to be Animus versus Swaggy McBuckets. We were originally going to show Lightcore versus, uh, was it Calvonix or Jono? Calvonix? Jono?
Calvonics.
Okay, so versus
It would be
Calvonix.
Calvonics. Yeah.
Yeah, versus Calvonix, but we're going to postpone that match in order to show you this one. Uh, so this should be a pretty fun game. We know that Swaggy and Animus both had really close top eight sets where they both went down to game three. But going into the matchup here, what do you think? What do you think about this matchup?
Yo, my name is Ryan. How we doing? Going into this matchup, we saw this. We've seen both of these teams now over the past hour and a half to kind of see, what we're working with. Going to this matchup specifically, I'm curious to see if Animus will actually utilize his own trick room setup versus Swaggy's team, which is really heavily focused a lot around that Groudon as well as Xerneas, and then that Mega Lopunny, which is a really interesting Pokemon. Um, Correct me if I'm wrong. When it Mega evolves, it is a normal fighting type. Is
Yes.
that correct? Yes. So it does have to be afraid of Mega Rayquaza and Dragon Descent when it goes into that Mega, but at the same time, he also has Xerneas and Tapu Koko. Not to mention if Animus is not able to take care of Groudon's harsh drought, which it definitely is because of airlock and the different types of weather control he has. This is going to be a hard weather matchup for Swaggy. So overall, I think Animus definitely has locked down the weather control, but when it comes to output of damage and power, I'm curious to see if Swaggy is going to be able to overtake Animus or the other way around.
Yeah, I was gonna say something about that trick room mode. That I think that trick room option from Animus is going to be very, very dangerous for Swaggy, considering how fast and offensive his team is. So I would not be surprised to see the Mimikyu out here, and considering that Swaggy does have an opposing Xerneas that is heavily threatened by the Metagross and potentially the Mimikyu with the Z move that we saw from Jonathan Evans' team in top four of NAIC. But we're going to be getting into the game now. We're going to see Mimikyu and Rayquaza, so that Mimikyu definitely coming to this battle as Swaggy McBuckets is going to lead with the Incineroar and Tapu Koko.
So Swaggy, unless he has Sky Drop or Roar, doesn't necessarily have a way to stop the Mimikyu. But we're going to see the Rayquaza immediately switch out into Incineroar, Protect coming up from the Mimikyu, and that Tapu Koko trying to go for a Volt Switch into the Mimikyu to probably break its disguise, but it's not going to be happening. Lopunny, when it's in its Mega form, I believe does have Scrappy, but doesn't matter because we're going to see Rayquaza swap into that Mimikyu slot and the Fake Out come out from Mega Lopunny.
Yep, so the double up coming up from Swaggy, just trying to get Mimikyu's disguise broken, but Animus doing a good job in preserving that disguise on Mimikyu at the cost of a lot of Rayquaza's HP. I'm assuming that is just outside of berry range if Animus is running the exact same, or if Animus is running the same item that Jonathan was running, he would be running the pinch berry. But if that would be the case, that seems to be just out of range. As Swaggy just going to go for the U-turn into Mimikyu, finally breaking that disguise. As Animus is going to bring in that Incineroar, as Trick Room is going to go up.
Animus is finally able to get up the speed control he was looking for, swapping out that Mega Lopunny for the Koko, having Rayquaza swap out on Animus' side for that Incineroar for the Intimidate drop, but that U-turn coming out from Swaggy's side of the field. And now we're going to see that Incineroar hard switching again, fake out from Incineroar, and Mimikyu now going for a Z move. Let's snuggle forever, going into that Mega Lopunny, and it will be enough to get the knockout.
Yeah, I was gonna say as soon as the Trick Room went up, Animus was free to just fire off that Z move. Considering that neither of Swaggy's Pokemon on his side do have Protect, and Mimikyu's Z move would be threatening a ton of damage on either Incineroar or Lopunny. So big Z move there from Animus, as he's going to go into his Kyogre to correctly predict the Incineroar fake out. Play rough, going to be doing a bit of chip to Xerneas. It is boosted by that Fairy Orb, but with the -1 attack, not going to be doing too much, as he is going to go for the Geomancy under Trick Room.
Geomancy under Trick Room, but I mean, look at Animus's side of the field. In this next turn, he's going to be able to use Xerneas to either protect, which I think that's coming next turn. I think your best positioning is to probably go for an attack now try to survive anything from Mimikyu or Kyogre since the Z move has been burned on Animus' side of the field, and maybe even go for a U-turn with Incineroar, or just a hard swap into Tapu Koko on Swaggy's side of the field. Protect coming out there, and Play Rough coming out from Mimikyu.
Yeah, definitely. I was gonna say that this Geomancy play might have been a bit ambitious from Swaggy, but actually it might actually end up winning him the game, considering when you look at Animus's side, all of his Pokemon are either low HP or vulnerable to Xerneas's fairy type attacks, since we do not see the Metagross coming in here. So once Trick Room goes down, it might be Xerneas's turn to come in and start sweeping.
There's a chance for that, although Animus does have all four of his Pokemon, as opposed to Swaggy, or only has two of his Pokemon left. Now that Incineroar has been swapped in, that's a beautiful opportunity for a fake out into the opposing Xerneas and a powerful water type move from Kyogre to knock out Swaggy's Incineroar.
Yeah, so even though Xerneas is fully set up, it does have to stare down Animus's entire team. But
Hmm.
I think Xerneas could possibly do it, but it's definitely going to be an uphill battle. But the thing is about Animus's team is that his only main means of damage output are that Kyogre and that Rayquaza, and we know that Rayquaza is extremely low, and plus it's weak to fairy type attacks. But Kyogre, I don't know if Kyogre is going to be able to bully its way through the Xerneas, especially with the special defense boost. So we're gonna have to see what Swaggy does to combat this Kyogre, as he's gonna go for a Dazzling Gleam, Origin Pulse. Ooh, the
Oh,
unfortunate
that is a
miss.
big miss. That's something that mattered right there. Because in my mind, the Origin Pulse connects, gets even more chip damage. You send in the Mimikyu, get even more chip damage, and then after that, hopefully you put that Xerneas into E-Speed range with Rayquaza to take the game. But
Yeah,
now with that missing, now you're in a very different position.
yeah, because now Swaggy is able to just get the free KO
Oh,
onto that
and that's
Mimikyu, preventing
yeah.
the Trick Room, and we'll have to see if this is going to be extreme speed range. The thing about these Berry Rayquazas is that they do sacrifice a lot of attack and speed in order to improve their bulk to take advantage of that Pinch Berry. But I mean, Mega Rayquaza is still a pretty strong Pokemon, so I think all Animus has to do is click the E-Speed button. However, it might not be enough. I don't know. I don't want to say for sure, but yeah, it's going to be enough. So we're going to
And we'll
see
see that. Yeah.
Animus is going to take game one of this set. Really tight in the end game, but this is why uh, players do not like using Origin Pulse. And but this team definitely likes to use it. But we definitely see the downsides of that attack.
Yeah, we if that Origin Pulse had missed again in that turn 10, it would have been a very very different game. But in a sense, though, this is the risk you take when using a move like Origin Pulse. Not 100% accuracy, but that's okay. Headed into our game two here, players are already getting
Immediately
going.
jumping in.
Mimikyu Rayquaza versus Lot Bunny Coco for our leads on both sides. So not fooling around with a possible scrappy fake out from this Lot Bunny and maybe even a possible Z move from that Coco into that Rayquaza as well. We're just going to have to see.
Yeah, I think these bulkier Rayquazas actually are built to live the Coco Z move. But the thing is, Lopunny could easily fake out the Rayquaza if Swaggy wants to predict Animus to do a defensive play with his Mimikyu like he did in the last game. However, if Lopunny decides to fake out the Mimikyu, possibly anticipating the Trick Room, then that does leave Animus's Rayquaza free to just click Dragon Ascent into the Lopunny. But instead, we're going to see Rayquaza go for the Protect here, as Swaggy correctly predicts the
Yeah.
fake out target into the Mimikyu and goes for the Volt Switch into the Rayquaza. Um, and yeah, pretty much nothing, no health bars being dropped this turn, just Mimikyu's face just being dropped to the floor.
Yes. Yeah. Falling to the floor and sort of sad now. But I think the main priority for all Pokemon on the field right now is if Animus is able to get up speed control, he's going to be able to pivot and take this game in a different way, or kind of similar to game one. But instead, we're going to see both Incineroars swapping in here, trading Intimidates and Volt Switch coming out from that Tapu Koko, but weakened due to strong winds, bringing in the ever so popular Xerneas.
Yeah, and Animus, we're going to see go for the Swords Dance here to mitigate that attack drop from Incineroar's Intimidate. But now Swaggy has maneuvered himself into a position where he can just do the classic fake out Geomancy play. However, he does have to watch out for Rayquaza, now it being at +1 attack. So if Rayquaza is able to get a Dragon Ascent off here, it's going to be doing massive damage to either one of these Pokemon. However, if Swaggy doesn't fake out Animus's Incineroar, then that gives Animus's Incineroar the ability to fake out Xerneas, which does inhibit its ability to set up Geomancy.
Mm-hmm. A trading of fake outs in this next turn would be a safer play for both players just to get a little bit of chip damage off with Fake Out. But instead, we're actually going to see Incineroar swapping out Protect, coming out from Xerneas, and Fake Out going into that Xerneas slot, and Rayquaza just going for the Dragon Ascent, tearing through that Mega Lot Bunny and knocking it out, bringing Incineroar in once again and dropping the attack stats of Incineroar and Rayquaza on Animus' side of the field.
Yeah, that was a very risky play for Swaggy in that he would have to basically give up a Pokemon if he was not going to target down Rayquaza. But we actually see this Rayquaza is faster than Xerneas, so that possibly indicates that Swaggy's Xerneas is a bit of a more defensive build, as a faster variant of Xerneas would likely be able to outspeed this Rayquaza. But that definitely changes things.
Eric, hear me out. E-Speed, Shadow Sneak.
Shadow Sneak.
There it is.
Yeah, we do know that Shadow Sneak was on Jonathan Evans' Mimikyu, and Rayquaza being able to do enough damage with the extreme speed puts it in range of Mimikyu's little speck of damage from Shadow Sneak, and yeah, this game is just looking not very good for Swaggy McBuckets here.
If anything, pivoting out Rayquaza for Incineroar to get an Intimidate drop onto the opposing Incineroar, and then trying to potentially set up a Trick Room with Mimikyu.
Yeah, because if you bring in Incineroar here, you not only lower the opposing Incineroar's attack, but you also have the ability to Fake Out next turn, which pretty much guarantees Mimikyu's Trick Room, barring any critical hits or any funny business like that. But we're going to see the Roar actually come out from Swaggy's Incineroar. So that does delay Trick Room for another turn, but this does bring out Rayquaza, which is able to get in extreme speed into the Tapu Koko, which likely means a follow-up attack is going to be coming out from the Incineroar, which likely means the Koko will be KO'd this turn, and Incineroar staring down Animus is basically its entire team, and with Kyogre in the back, it's looking pretty wrapped up here.
Yeah, Animus is just sweeping these turns. Swaggy accepting his fate, given the GG, and Dragon Ascent ending this game with Primal Kyogre coming in, and Animus being able to take the game with all 4 of his Pokemon still standing, and Swaggy with none left whatsoever. Yeah. Wow. What a set between both of these trainers.
Yeah, I definitely think Animus definitely played the matchup as he should have, because I definitely think it was in his favor. However, even though the second game was a 4-0, I feel like it was a really close 4-0, because I feel like at any point in the game the momentum could have turned, because you had Swaggy's Xerneas just sitting there at +2, and again Animus did not really have a switch into it, but once again he's able to chip the Xerneas enough to the point where he's able to pick it off with this time a combination of priority moves. So definitely a very, very good set to both players. We will now be moving into our second top 4 match in just a couple minutes between I guess either Lightcore or 2x4 versus Calvonix. So we'll see you guys in a few.